Now then guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel as today we rebuild Luton Town, a team that was voted for by you in your hordes really. It was a very one-sided vote. And I'm not surprised as Luton Town are going to be struggling in the Premier League this season. And it's my job over 3 seasons to keep them there. And it's going to be one hell of a rebuild. We've got the finances. I'm pretty happy with the finances. We'll have a look at them in a minute. But we haven't really got the talent. So that'll be the aim for at least this first season. Now, I am using an updated database, and if it's something that you would like to use, please check out this video by Hood Gaming, and he will talk you through the steps of being able to do this yourself. Or alternatively, if you want to carry on this save from the point that I leave it after 3 seasons, then you can do that. It will be available down in the description. And if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. We've now ticked over that 2,500 subscribers. That was the main aim. We got there. On to the 3,000 now, though. And I implore you to help me out in doing that. So, yes, if you are new, like I say, please like and subscribe. But let's get in to rebuilding Luton Town. Right, so here we are then, guys, on the club info screen. Our media prediction stands out straight away. We had expected a 20th place finish after taking that step up into the Premier League and also those facilities. Now, I am torn between spending all of my money on the squad or trying to pump it back into the club. Now, Kenilworth Road has been highly publicised as not being ready for the Premier League. Now, there is actually upgrades happening in the real world today, but not on FM. So we've got a stadium condition that is poor and a capacity of just over 10,000, which I believe is the smallest in the Premier League. When we look at Bournemouth, their capacity is just under 11,500. So yeah, we have got the smallest stadium in the Premier League this season. Obviously that hurts revenue, and we will need to look at expanding that over the next 3 seasons, I am sure. Maybe not push from me, the board may get involved in that, but it depends if we stay in the Premier League after the first season. So looking through the club history then, yeah, it's not been great for them. However, forget about all this here with the promotions and the relegations. As far back as 2009, they were actually relegated into the Vanarama National, managing to get promoted in 2014 with a first place finish, promoted with a second place finish from League 2 in 2018, then up into the Championship, out of League 1 in first place in 2019, and here we are in the Premier League in 2023, which is an absolute insane climb, I'm sure you'll agree. The last won the Sky Bet Championship, or what will have been the second division, I'd have imagined, would have been 1982, the Carabao Cup in 1988, they won League 1 in 2019, like I've just said, League 2 in 1968, the Vanarama National 2014, the Carabao Cup in 1988, the Papa John's Trophy in 2009. So there's been some fairly recent silverware claimed in the domestic cups, the lower domestic cups that is. But yes, like I say, going in through the playoffs with a 3rd place finish last season. But it's all about the finances really, isn't it? That is going to determine how well we do this season. The overall balance is £25 million. But it is that transfer budget of £37.4 million. And even bigger for me, the board are going to let me retain 100% of transfer revenue. I am surprised with that. I didn't think they would let me get too much of those outgoings. However, we will talk about that shortly, because it doesn't look like there's much value in the squad anyway. So I don't think the percentage of transfer revenue would have been that important within these first 12 months anyway. And the wage budget, I quite like it, just under £500,000 of 496k, and we're only currently spending 247k. Debt and loans wise, no net debt, and transfer debt is 258k. I can live with that. That'll be gone by the end of this season, I am sure. So talking about that percentage of transfer revenue, what I mean is there is no real value in the squad. When we look at it, the highest value player is AIO at £11.5 million, and I'm going to keep him. The next highest value player, 9.8 million, 9.8, 7.8, 7.6. Yeah, it's good for us, but I'm not going to sell any of the squad. I want to keep a lot of it together, which brings me to my next point. When we look at all of these contracts that have expired, there's some very good players in there as well, like Luke Berry, Henry Lansbury getting on a little bit, but I'm sure he can offer something in the Premiership. Jordan Clark, Ferran Yedema as well in there. And obviously that is naturally going to bring value to the squad. When they get new contracts, clearly they're not going to be valued at 300k anymore, because they're going to be more of an asset to the club. So what's the board expectation this season? So to attempt to avoid relegation from the Premier League, clearly that is the right way to go. Be competitive in the FA Cup and also in the Carabao Cup. The actionable objectives is to work within the wage budget and grow the club's reputation. Nothing in there about the stadium though. But the one thing I will say, the noticeable criticism, extremely concerned at my lack of support. Let's just, before we move on to that, what do the supporters want? They basically want the same, but looking at supporter culture, they want us to play defensively solid football, play possession football, and make the most of set pieces. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking at. We are going to be playing defensively this season, at least cautious anyway. Not ultra defensive, as I don't just want to get pummeled game in, game out. I do want to try and attack. I do want to play on the front foot. But yeah, I don't know if we'll be playing any high tempo pressing football in the first season at least. But yeah, I just want to get back to that point about the board being extremely concerned about my lack of support. So looking at the squad dynamics, then you can see managerial support is abysmal. Team cohesion's not great neither. Lots of people want new deals, and when we look at the top influencers, then I've got 13 players that are posers on my first day. That isn't ideal. Can I get a team meeting to try and get them back on side? Not yet. Not until the preseason starts. So yeah, I've still got a bit of winning over to do. I think sorting out contracts and bringing in some new additions should help me on with that. Competitions wise, then we've got the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. Premier League, I can't imagine there's going to be any surprises here when we look at the season preview. No, we are expected a 20th place finish. And unsurprisingly, again, we've got no players in the Media Dream 11. But one thing I will say is Luis Enrique has taken the poison chalice at Tottenham after the sacking of Conte, and not getting the opportunity in the FM world. And then looking at the tactic then, I am going to play a 4-1-3-2. I'm going to play the anchor man, not a tactic I've really touched on the FM23 cycle. We're going to play a control possession and a cautious mentality. However, that control possession, I could play a direct counter-attack. I just want to try and have as much of the ball as I possibly can. We're not going to play a Gengen press. We're not going to play a tiki-taka. It may be that we do drop to a direct counter-attack or even a route one. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see how it goes this season. But that is the introduction to the squad then, guys. So what we're going to do is we are going to move forward to the start of the season where I'm going to get some of these existing players signed on some long-term deals and also spend some of that money in improving the squad and see what we can do with developing those facilities as well. Right then, guys, so it's the start of the season and I have spent the majority of this money. I have built a team I think is strong enough to survive in the Premier League. However, if things do go wrong, I shouldn't have to have a mass clear out should we end up in the Championship next season. Obviously, that isn't the plan, but sometimes you've got to plan for the worst. So, looking at the finances is £5.5 million left in the transfer budget. I haven't spent it all. The original budget was 29 million, so it was nice to leave a little bit of a buffer in there. Wage budget is now up to 641k. I've pumped some of that transfer budget into the wages. Overall balance is still in the black. I'll take that at £8 million. Net debt is 0 and transfer debt is 241k. So players join us, and the first player through the door is Bendigus Boller, who joins us for £1.8 million from Wolves, where they brought him in for 800k. He played 31 times for Grasshoppers in Switzerland last season with 5 assists. I'm very happy to get him in, 23-year-old Hungarian international, so we get some international pedigree into the squad as well. I then brought in a couple of players from the relegated Southampton, and the first player through the door is Jack Stevens, 29-year-old centre-back, who joins us for 975k. He was actually out on loan last season at Bournemouth. Now, it won't show any game time. That's the one thing to say, because obviously we've moved forward a season to get all the promotions and relegations in. And it doesn't actually record how they performed last season, so I'm just going blind here. But I think Jack Stevens is good enough to go in as one of my centre-back too. Now, a bit of a curveball is bringing in a 22-year-old Lorenzo Luca. Now, he's got no caps for Italy as of yet, and we've brought him in for £3 million after he was out on loan last season at Ajax, where he played 17 times, scoring 6 goals with 5 assists. Happy to get him in. I've had him on a couple of rebuilds already, and he scores goals. The only problem with it is he's got a minimum release clause of £16 million, and that usually gets activated very early. So, ideally for me, I want to see how it performs within the first 6 months, and then try and get him on a better contract, which then gets rid of that low release clause. So, I wanted to upgrade in the goalkeeping department, and I think I've done that very nicely with Samuel Portugal, a 29-year-old Brazilian who joined us from Porto, where he joined them for 850k last season, playing 3 but conceding 5, which isn't a great return, and we've brought him in for 675k, so they've made a loss on him. Comes in as a sweeper keeper because I want to play the ball out from the back, so he is ideal should we want to break it down. However, I have changed it up a little bit tactically. I then brought in Charlie Good from Brentford, so he stays in London after being on loan last season at Blackpool. We brought him in for £1.2 million. He hasn't got too much game time, and we're bringing a player that's just been on loan at Blackpool in to play as a central defender in a Premier League side. Maybe a big mistake, however, looking at his attributes, I do think he's good enough to offer some depth to the team, and he's a tall fella as well at 6'5". And finally, the big money was spent on the wonder kid, Romeo Lavia. Now, how I've managed to get this guy into the club, lots of big teams were after him and he wanted to stay in the Premier League, so yeah, he joins us as a hard worker midfielder, 19-year-old, not capped by Belgium yet. Southampton took him last season for £10.5 million, and then we've took him on a season later for 15 million. Again, can't see how he performed, but everybody was after him, and I'm very happy to get this guy in to sit at the base of my midfield. So looking at the released players, you can see there's plenty there. I'm not going to go through them all. I'll give you a quick second to have a look. But I decided to trim down that squad dramatically so I could spend their wages on bringing in some new additions. So tactically then, I have changed it up a little bit. We are still going to play that 4-1-3-2. But I'm not going to play with Yankerman. I'm going to play with a ball-winning midfielder. And I'm also going to play a direct counter-attack. I don't think I can be trying to play control possession against some of these sides we're going to be up against, like the likes of Manchester City and so on. I'm just going to go on the counter-attack. So we're also going to go for a cautious approach. And my best 11 looks like this with Portugal in goal, Bell, Lockyer, Stevens and Bowler at the back with Lavia in that holding role, Doherty, Panzu and Oyindima out on that right hand side, then Adebayo and Luca up front. Now obviously up front we're just going to be hitting that ball long. Adebayo is going to be the man that knocks it down, Luca's going to be the man on the shoulder who's going to be running for it, and I'm hoping to just snatch some wins really, because we're just going to try and shit our way out to Premier League survival this season I think. So competitions wise nothing changes. The Premier League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. Has our expected position changed though? Absolutely not. We're 700 to 1 to win the league. We're going to have to exceed expectations I think. And then schedule, we have had a shocking pre-season. It started to fall apart. We started off with victories, then a draw, and yeah, 4 defeats on the bounce. And then we start off with games against Tottenham, Newcastle, Arsenal, Sheffield United and West Ham. Sheffield United getting promoted with us, but they are favourites to take the victory. So the bookies are most certainly against. So what we're going to do is we are going to move forward to the end of season 1, where hopefully we have survived in the Premier League. If not, then I don't think that will be a surprise to many, but can we upset the odds? Right guys, so it looks like it's been the worst Premier League season in history, and we have ended up surviving with 26 points. Burnley, Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United all getting relegated. Yeah, 26 points on the board and we survived. That's usually enough for 19th place, no higher if you're lucky, but yeah, we've survived. That was the main thing. We were expected to finish bottom, and we've survived with 26 points. Minus 39 goal difference as well isn't too bad when you look at those teams below us. And when we look at the league table, 38 games played, 7 wins, 5 draws, 26 defeats, 31 goals scored, 70 conceded, minus 39 goal difference, 26 points. We lost 4 of our last 5 games. Even Forest and Sheffield United winning wasn't enough to get them anywhere near us. And Burnley have had an absolute shocker as well. They matched us, losing 4 out of their 5 games and drawing the other. So looking at the past positions then, we were bottom of the league up until match day 18. We then had a 0-0 draw with Burnley that took us off bottom spot. And then we then beat Aston Villa 1-0, which took us up into 18th. It was only then on match day 33 when we beat Forest, one of our relegation rivals, 1-0, that we ended up getting out of the drop zone and getting into 17th, and we have hung on by picking up 1 more point across the last 5 games. So competitions wise then, we were knocked out in the 4th round of the FA Cup by Leicester City, and we were absolutely battered 6-1. There you go. Honestly, 25 shots, 18 on target. We had 8 and 4. We had 6-1. We were well and truly done there. And we were then knocked out in the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup on penalties, actually, after a 2-2 draw. Who missed a penalty for us? Stevens missed the penultimate penalty that cost us it, but we had 5 shots, 3 on target, scoring 2 goals. I will take that. Lorenzo Luca with a goal and Jordan Clark, but it just wasn't enough to get us over the line. So we've got £60 million for another season in the Premier League. Finances are starting to look much better now, as we have 68.8 million left in the bank. That wage budget is now up to 874k. We're pushing forward to nearly spending £1 million on wages, but that's £60 million. That's really good for us this season as we look to survive again. Net debt is 0. Transfer debt now down to 158k. But you'll see as well, I've changed it up a little bit tactically, so I wanted to run through. I come back in quarters throughout the season. That's not something I normally do. I normally just play forward through until January, have a look at the free transfers or the potential contract expiries, and then I just forward on to the end of the season. So I normally only stop mid-season. However, I knew that this was going to be a struggle, and I didn't know what tactic was going to fit us. And you look at our form since the season started, that is sacking form. I'm surprised the board held on with me for so long. We didn't actually pick up a point till the 27th of October, so it's a miracle that we actually survived when we got a 1-1 draw with Bournemouth. But by that point, we'd already switched to a 4-3-3, as obviously the 4-1-3-2 wasn't picking us anything up. And in fairness, the 4-3-3 didn't do bad, but we were still just getting absolutely battered. But we had some decent victories in there. A 1-0 victory against Everton, 1-0 against Aston Villa, a 2-1 victory then against Newcastle in the FA Cup as well. But I just wasn't happy with our performance, so then I swapped it up to a 4-2-4. So we just went all out attacking. For me, I just went for the fact that if we're going to lose, we're going to lose going for it. So we went for that, and then we picked up a 3-0 victory straight away against Crystal Palace, a 3-1 victory over Burnley. In fairness, like I said, we got smashed 6-1 by Leicester in there. and 6-3 by Chelsea. But we drew 0-0 with Brighton, 3-0 against Fulham, 0-0 with Bournemouth, 1-0 against Forest. That's probably the section that saved us, let's be honest. And then we had a terrible end to the season, actually losing 2-1 against one of our relegation rivals, Sheffield United. So we could have been even further clear of the relegation zone if we'd picked up points there. But a 2-2 draw with Manchester United from the second to final game of the season was enough. That was the point that earned us our survival. So tactically, like I say, that is how I am at the minute. We're playing a balanced tiki-taka mentality, 4-2-4, and I'm going to build around this tactic now. It got us there, so let's go with it. So realistically now, Lavia, who I wanted a bit deeper, he's playing as a ball winner midfielder as one of my two. Now this guy's got some serious value to him, up to £88 million. There may be an opportunity. It might be right if I sell him this season after bringing him in. What did I bring him in for again? Just remind myself, £15 million. If we can get even £64 million for him, that'll give us plus £100 million to rebuild the squad this season. The one thing that we have with rebuilding the squad is who is going to want to join us. We've just been slapped about this season. Clearly, when you've got 100 odd million, you want a couple of marquee signings. Yes, we're not getting Kylian Mbappe or Neymar or anybody like that, but we want some marquee signings for Luton Town, and I just don't feel we're at the point where we can get them in at the moment. However, saying that, we did bring in Lorenzo Luca, and he scored 19 goals this season, was the top goal scorer in the league. Let's just see who the top goal scorer was. Money on Haaland. Erling Haaland with 35. Lorenzo Luca didn't even make it into the top 8. However, Harry Kane had an absolute shocker with 17 goals. Alexander Isak in second with 24. But yeah, no surprises, Haaland scoring 35 this season. Luca also had the highest average rating at a 6.93. Most assists was Doherty with 7. Best pass completion was Mpanzu with 89%. Most player of the match awards was my goalkeeper, Samuel Portugal with 4. Most yellow cards was Dan Potts and Jack Stevens with 8 apiece. And we had 1 red card, which was Alan Campbell. And then when we look at the team stats, we scored 31 goals, which is the 4th worst. We conceded 70, which is the 4th worst. So a 17th place finish, in fairness, is about right for our performance. We got 60 yellow cards, which is the 4th worst. 1 red card, which is the 1st best. And we had the worst average attendance, which we knew about before the season even started, at 10k. Now, I did try to upgrade the facilities, and I did try to upgrade the stadium. And I basically got told by the board, you've only been here 5 seconds, wind your neck in. So I will push again for it this season, because I do think it would be a sound investment given the funds that we've got going in to the summer transfer window. Right then, guys, to the start of Season 2, and I've spent some of this money. As you can see from the finances, I've got £10 million left in the bank. That wage budget is now almost £1 million at 979k per week. Overall balance is now £29 million. Net debt is 0. Transfer debt is 37k. But financially, we're in a solid place, and we will be because of that Premier League revenue. But looking at the transfers, 2 players have left us. Dan Potts has gone to Millwall, so he's dropped down into the Championship after playing 38 times his last season. He's had plenty of time at Luton. And then Carlos Mendes Gomez has dropped down 2 divisions to Plymouth. They spent 450k on him. He actually played 10 times in the Premier League for his last season, getting a 6.4 rating. So joining us then, the first player through the door is Taiwo Awoniyi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I brought him in for £7 million after Nottingham Forest brought him in for 17.75. He played 21 times in the Premier League last season, only scoring 1 goal. Obviously, Forest went down. 3 assists, 2 player of the match performances. But I'm happy to get him in. He's a solid player, and I'm expecting goals out of him this season. I say goals. You know, Luca got, 16, 17 goals for his last season. I'm sure Awoniyi can get double figures beside him. I then brought in a highly regarded youngster, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, and he joined us on a free transfer from Manchester City. Now, he was out on loan last season. Burnley, however, obviously we can't see any of those stats because of the way the game was preloaded. But he didn't play a game at City neither last season. So, we've brought him in very fresh. Solid player, currently valued for £15 million, and has been brought in as a centre-back. However, he can play out on that right-hand side as well. I then spent £9.25 million on a 22-year-old Italian, Mattia Vitti. Now, he joins us for £9.25 million from Nice. They actually took him on the season before for £10.25. He only played 1 game last season in League One, but he's valued at £28 million already. That heading, mark and tackling, 14, 13, 14. Good strength as well. 6'3", so he's a towering centre-back. So yeah, I'm expecting him to develop nicely over these next 2 seasons. I then brought in another centre-back, so you can see the theme here with 3 centre-backs joining us this season. I've brought in Dale Rafael Fry, a player that I think is very good, and we brought him in for £9 million from Middlesbrough. I'm sure they'll be happy with that money, and I think it's a good deal for us as well. Played 40 times in the Championship last season, and he's valued £13 million. At heading 16, marking 14, tackling 15. Again, another tall centre-back at 6'4". And then moving out to left-back, I've brought in a 26-year-old Northern Irish international with 45 caps, Jamal Lewis, who joins us from Newcastle United for £3.9 million. He only played 4 times in the Premier League last season. Again, very happy with that deal, £3.9 million after Newcastle spent 14.75 bringing him in. He's got good acceleration and pace at 14 and 15. He's an attacking fullback, and that's what I'm after. I'm after people bombing forward, and that crossing and dribbling 11 and 12 could be a little bit higher, but again, very good value for money. And then my big transfer was bringing in a 28-year-old Nigerian with 35 caps and 5 goals, Joe Aribo. So he joins us from Southampton for £14 million. Had been at Rangers before that. He comes in, he's going to play out on the right-hand side in that attacking midfield position. Probably as an inside forward. That dribbling, finishing and first touch very good. Acceleration and pace decent as well. So very happy to get him in. And again, I'm expecting big things from him this season. So this season I'm potentially going to fall on my sword again, but I'm going to play the 4-2-4. It was the tactic that got us out of trouble, and I'm going to go with it. So my starting 11 as it stands is Portugal in goal, Lewis, VT, Fry and Boller at the back, with Lavia and Campbell in the middle, Doherty and Aribo out wide, and Luca and Awonyi up front. That's a very good team. I just don't know if the tactic is quite there yet, because we are going to play that balanced mentality, but pre-season wise, when we look at the schedule, it's not been good for us. Our first game of the season is up against West Ham, and we've already been beaten by them 4-1 in Mpanzu's testimonial. So yeah, that's not a great sign. You know, there's teams there that we should have really been beaten. STVV and Troyes are all teams we should have been beaten. Yes, we got a fantastic victory over Boreham Wood and Folkestone, but teams that we should have been just kicking off the park anyway. So yeah, that first game, like I say, against West Ham, that's not been good for us, especially when we're playing 4-2-4. 4 attackers basically. We only managed 6 shots and 1 on target. Competitions wise, then we have the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but what is the expectation in the Premier League? So let me just move myself out the way. We are expected a bottom place finish again, 1,000 to 1 to win the league. Teams promoted are Norwich, Leeds and Leicester. So those teams had dropped last season. The only reason we remained in the Premier League and survived is because the teams around us were so exceptionally poor. But the teams coming up this season, like I say, Leeds and Leicester will be staying up. So there's less teams around us. You know, it might only be Norwich, Bournemouth, Everton that are down there with us come the end of the season. So as far as the new managers go, Mauricio Pochettino goes to Newcastle United. Eddie Howe, where has he gone? He's now unemployed. So yeah, Eddie Howe lost his job at the end of the season and Pochettino comes in. So there you go then, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to move forward till the end of season 2, where hopefully we've pulled off the great escape again. But I think it's all going to come down to, is this the tactic to see us through? Right, so the end of season 2, we've done a little bit better than just surviving in the Premier League, as we were actually goal difference away from being in the Europa Conference League. Manchester United taking 8th place there. That's crazy in itself that we were level on points with Manchester United. But we were well clear of relegation, finishing on 57 points, like I say. Norwich, Wolves and Crystal Palace going down, so I'll be trying to poach players because there'll be plenty of relegation release clauses going on there. And Wolves have got plenty of talent that we could pick at going into next season. So yeah, let's just have a look in more detail. So league table wise, like I say, 38 games played, 16 wins, 9 draws, 13 defeats all season is very good. 66 goals scored, 64 conceded. We were actually in plus goal difference this season as well with 57 points. 1 point clear of Fulham. Chelsea down in 11th place as well. They've had a shocker. Newcastle in 13th. Is Pochettino still a man in charge there? No, Didier Deschamps has now taken over. So when we look at the past positions, we were actually up as high as 6th place. We had a 4-2 victory over Liverpool there on the 29th of December. That is mental. And then we end up winning 3-0 against Arsenal at home on the final game of the season to put us up into 9th place. I think given our performance, we've got to look at these fixtures. A 5-2 victory there over Newcastle United. A 1-1 draw with Liverpool at Anfield. 2-1 at Aston Villa. 1-1 draw with Manchester City. So there's some big results there. We drew 0-0 with Manchester United. 4-2, like I say, over Liverpool. Let's have a look at that one and see what happened. Onyedinma with a goal on 33. Luca. And then Adebayo with goals on 66 and 83. And there's the like of Mohamed Salah in there as well. I can see Toni Kroos and James Ward-Prowse now at Liverpool. And yes, the wheels started to fall off a bit in January by the look of it. No games won in March, but we ended May with 3 straight victories. 2-0 over Brentford, 2-1 Bournemouth, and that 3-0 victory over Arsenal there again. Lorenzo Luca with 2 goals on 21 and 64, and Alfie Doherty with a goal on 51. We only had 7 shots on target, and by the look of it, we were the more aggressive side in that one. So competitions-wise, then obviously we know that we outperformed in the Premier League. We were knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup by Burnley, so that's not ideal. They had 10 shots and 6 on target. We had 6 on target as well. Muric with a 7.6 rating for them, the goalkeeper, so we tried our best, but we were well and truly beaten. And we also were knocked out of the Carabao Cup in the 4th round by Crystal Palace. We were 3-1 down at half-time before Lucas' penalty on 88 brought us back in it, but they only had 3 shots on target, scoring all 3 of them. And Samuel Portugal in goal for us got a 6.2 rating, so disappointing again. I do genuinely believe in those cup competitions we could have got a little bit further. So player stats wise, then Lorenzo Luca got 25 goals this season. Does that put him in the top 10? Let's have a look. So Lorenzo Luca actually joined 2nd goal scorer in the league this season. He actually scored 1 goal more than Erling Haaland, who's had a bit of an off season with 21 Premier League goals, but Harry Kane takes the golden boot with 32 goals. Luca also had the highest average rating, that is no surprise, with a 7.32. Aribo though coming in with 14 assists this season. Best pass completion was VT with 92%. Most player of the match awards was Luca with 6. VT had 12 yellow cards and no red cards. And then when we look at the team stats, so 66 goals scored this season, which was the 3rd best in the league. Unfortunately though, we conceded 64, which was the 3rd worst. So that is clearly where we need to improve. But I spent a lot of money improving my defence last season. Maybe it's just the tactic, but the tactic has got us into 9th place. It guided us to survival in our 1st season, so I'm going to stick with it. That 4-2-4 is the way to go. We had 87 yellow cards, which is the worst. 0 red cards, which is the best. And our average attendance is now 17,500, as it actually looks like we've moved to our new stadium. So there we are, a power court. It's got a 17,500 capacity, and we are maxing it out this season. So it may be able to just have a look at finances before we move on. We've got £76 million to play with. Overall balance of £69 million. The wage budget is now over £1 million. Debt and loans and transfer debt is looking very good. But can I expand the stadium? No, I can't. There's nothing there facilities-wise. Clearly nothing about the stadium. We've just got a new one. Surely after 12 months, we're not going to be adding any more seating to it. But it was worth a go. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward to the start of Season 3, where I've got £76 million to spend, probably on a new back 4 and a goalkeeper. Right guys, so it's the final season, Season 3, and I'm not going to aim any higher than surviving in the Premier League again. I'm not looking to try and sneak our way into Europe because we had a top half finish last season. I think that was just the best that we can do. I haven't really been able to find any players that are going to take us to the next level. Yes, I found players that are good, but like I say, no real superstars joining us this season. So financially, we've still got £30 million in the transfer budget, and that is because I'm not just going to bring anybody in. We're already spending a massive amount of money on wages on the current squad, £1.1 million, with an overall balance of £35 million. Debt and loans, no net debt, and that transfer debt, we're now actually owed $803k. So players leaving us then, Reece Burke has gone off to Middlesbrough, so he's been with us for a couple of seasons. We actually let him go out on loan last season to Middlesbrough for £34 million, and they decided to make that deal permanent, taking him on for £1.5 million. And then Charlie Good, a player that I brought in when I first joined the club. I think I brought him in for £1.2 million. He only played 3 times for us, so it wasn't really a good investment, and we let him go for £400k. But joining us then, the first player through the door is a 25-year-old Englishman with 2 caps, Tarek Mitchell. So he joins us for £15.5 million from the relegated Crystal Palace. Obviously, they went down last season. He played 34 times in the Premier League. We're bringing him at left back to challenge Jamal Lewis. Now, like I say, he's valued at £25 million. He's a fully capped England international at acceleration and pace of 15 and 16, crossing and dribbling 13 apiece. Very, very good player. And like I say, he's probably going to be the start. He's going to wedge Jamal Lewis, I'm sure. But I've got some great competition out on that left-hand side now. I then brought in a 28-year-old Englishman, Max Kilman. Again, he joins us from a relegated club for £9 million from Wolves. He played 36 times last season, and we've brought him in, and he's valued at £16 million. I'm quite surprised he hasn't snuck an England cap in there, considering the time that's passed. However, that doesn't impact us at all. He's 6'4", heading 16, marking 14, tackling 14, strength 14, likes to bring the ball out of defence. I'm very, very happy to get this guy in. And I brought in who was once a wonder kid, Willem Goebbels. Now, he joins us from St. Gallen on a free transfer. Like I say, once labelled a wonder kid, and Monaco bought him in for £17.75 million. He didn't do too much there. He went out on loan to Nantes, where he played 22 times, and his career's fallen off a little bit. He ended up in Switzerland in the Super League at St. Gallen. Last season, though, he had a very good season, playing 33 times, scoring 13 goals with 5 assists, and I've brought him in on a free transfer. And he's a very good option out on the left-hand side, but can also play up top. I then brought in Fard Mufi, a 29-year-old Moroccan, valued at £6.4 million, and he's a pacey right back. So he's got pace and acceleration of 14 apiece, crossing and dribbling 14 and 15, and I brought him in for £2.3 million. I brought him in from Portugal, where he played 28 times last season. Again, a very good depth option. Then staying in the Portuguese Premier League, I brought in Ibrahima Bamba from Vitória for £10.5 million. Very, very happy to get him in. Played 32 times last season. £10.5 million is a steal. He's now valued to £26 million. He wants to play at the base of the midfield. We're not going to do that. We are going to push him forward. He is currently being trained to be a ball winner midfielder, because I don't really think he's got the defensive attributes, heading, marking and tackling. You know, those are 11s, and he's tackling 14. It just isn't quite there yet, but he has got plenty of pace and acceleration. And then finally, I brought in a free transfer, the 23-year-old Englishman Tommy Doyle, who's valued to £40 million, going to fit straight into my midfield, and we've brought him in on a free transfer from Manchester City. Now, he's had plenty of game time over the last couple of seasons at Burnley, and I can't believe we've got him on a free. Very, very good player, and like I say, already valued to £40 million. So tactically then, obviously we're sticking with that 4-2-4, and we're still going to play a balanced mentality. So we've got Portugal in goal, Mitchell, VT, Kilman and Mufi at the back, with Doyle and Lavia in the midfield, Doherty and Aribo out wide, and then Luca and Awonyi up front. What a team that is. Competitions wise, we've got the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. Are we still favourites to go down? Looking at the season preview, no, we've moved up a place. We've actually halved our odds. We're only 500 to 1 now to win the league. A 19th place finish. We've got no players in the Media Dream 11. And Ruud van Nistelrooy makes his way to Manchester United. But I'm not quite convinced he's the man to lead them to glory. And then finally, looking at the schedule, we start off against Ruud van Nistelrooy's Manchester United, Southampton, Liverpool, West Ham and Bournemouth making up my first 5 games. We've got Lincoln City in there as well in the Carabao Cup. But yeah, I'm not expecting that surge that we had last season. We have had a few more players drop into the squad. But let's just, before I move on, actually look at the squad dynamics. That team cohesion is very good, so maybe it won't be a problem and maybe we will be able to hit the ground running. So yes, join me at the end of the season, where hopefully we're still in the Premier League. Right, that's it then, guys. We have survived the 3rd season, finishing in 12th place. And I'd say we were almost established within the Premier League now. We're definitely part of the fixtures and furnishings. And yeah, very happy with that 12th place finish. Not as high as last season, however, we were well clear of those relegation places, finishing with 45 points on the board. We finished with 0 goal difference there as well, which is decent when you're looking at teams around us. And looking at the league table, like I say, 38 games played, 12 wins, 9 draws, 17 defeats, 52 scored, 52 conceded, 45 points on the board. Our form though towards the back end of the season, 1 win in 5. Liverpool win the league. One thing I will say is how I did not notice that Spurs had won the league in season 2, winning by 3 points. You know, at least they can do it on the game, I suppose. They'll get nowhere near in real life. So looking at the past positions then, we were up and down. We had a terrible start to the season. It looks like match day 21. We turned ourselves around with a 3-0 victory over Burnley there. We were up as high as 9th at one point with a 3-1 victory over Sheffield United. But yeah, our form towards the back end of the season just seen us mill about in that 12th place. So competitions-wise, we've won the FA Cup. How on earth have we won the FA Cup? A 2-0 victory there over Liverpool. Awonyi with 2 goals on the 1st minute and the 53rd. That is absolutely crazy. And we matched Liverpool as well. 50% possession. We had 15 shots and 7 on target. They had 15 and 5. And there you go then, guys. We end up lifting the FA Cup. Does that mean we've also got European football next season? Let's just go back to the league. And it does, as well as Europa League football is coming to Power Court next season. That is absolutely mental. So if you want to carry this on, obviously I've said this before, if you want to carry this save on, you'll be taking over Luton Town, now established in the Premier League, also playing in the Europa League next season. Obviously, like I say, looking at those competitions, we have won the FA Cup. Carabao Cup, we didn't do too well, being knocked out in the 3rd round by Aston Villa. We were well and truly battered there as well, 4-0. But finances wise, they've gone big again, with £64 million being given to us in the transfer window next season. That wage budget at £1.1 million. Overall balance is £82 million, around about again. Debt and loans, no net debt, and that transfer debt down to 7k. Very, very happy with that. You know, we have been solid all the way through. We haven't had too many incoming funds because the squad just really hasn't got the value. I've got a handful of players that are worth big money, but they just need holding on to. You know, like I say, I don't want the likes of Luca, Lavia, and players like that leaving us. So, yeah, very happy with how we've managed the finances as well. So, looking at the player stats then, Awonyi got 25 goals this season, absolutely tearing it up. What does that mean for the player stats, though? He didn't actually get into the top goal scorers. Luca Luca did with 20 goals in the league. So what did the one year get then? So one year got 18 in the league, 7 in cup competitions, giving him 25 goals overall. He's been decent since he joined us. Like I say, he got 1 goal for Forest in the season before he joined us, then 10 and 18. So we've had a very good return on investment there. Luca had the highest average rating of 7.25. Most assists was Tommy Doyle, 16 assists for him. He's had a good season with 5 goals as well as 13 assists. Yeah, he has been solid for us on a free transfer and valued up to £46 million now. Best pass completion was VT with 89%. Most player of the match awards was Luca with 7. Most yellow cards was Howard Bellis with 17. 17 yellow cards for one player this season is it's not good going, I'd say. And then most red cards is Adebayo with 1. And then when we look at these team stats, 52 goals scored, which is the 10th worst. 52 goals conceded, which is the 9th best. 86 yellow cards, which is the 2nd worst. 1 red card, which is the 5th best. And that 3rd worst average attendance for the 2nd season on the bounce, as we were at full capacity again, 17,500. And then finally, looking at that job history, we've actually won a bit of silverware, which is mental that we've won the FA Cup. It really is. 17th in the first season. We got a 9th place finish in Season 2 and a 12th place finish in Season 3 with the FA Cup. And then finally, I brought in a total of 21 players, spending £103 million. I sold 19 players for a total of 5.75. Highest fee spent was 15.5 million for Tyrick Mitchell, and that was in last summer's transfer window, and that's the same for Eastberg, outgoing at £1.5 million. I think we've got to do a special shout out to Paul Trollope, who is assistant manager. He was the man in charge of this, really. I just do the transfers, and he takes charge of the games, and this guy has led us to FA Cup glory. You know, I'd love to be all it was me, but absolutely not. Yes, I said the tactic. Yes, I picked the players, but this guy was doing it week in, week out, and he's led us to a top half finish and an FA Cup trophy in pre-season, so absolutely bossing it. So there you go then, guys. What a rebuild. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. We've had plenty of funds, and we've been able to build the squad the way I like. The tactic was a bit of a risk, obviously going attacking with that 4-2-4. Yes, it was a balance, but it was more of a kill or be killed kind of approach, and fortunately we have survived for 3 seasons in the Premier League. So if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Like I say, this save will be ready to continue in the description section, and you'll be able to take on from where we are now, the 2nd of June 2026, taking Luton Town into the Europa League, which is absolutely massive. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you later. Ta-ra.